everybody, welcome back to Coach's Corner. So we're going to pick up where we left off talking about self-talk and how it can affect your performance. What are some of the ways that you said that you use self-talk when you're in training?
So for me, the self-talk goes one of two ways. It's either going to be, I need to get myself ready for the lift and I want to maintain a good positive attitude so I minimize any mistakes and I also don't dwell on them, because when you dwell on your mistakes, or if you constantly are focused on your mistakes, your performance should not be able to get much better. That's just not the way that my mind works. So it's a lot of positive self-talk, like, all right, cool. We'll say, for example, I know that I'm going to go hit a heavy weight. The weight is always going to be heavy. That's why we're doing it.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be hard. It's not impossible. If you step up to a weight and you go, oh shit, this is hard, versus this is heavy, hard is going to imply that you're going to really struggle with it. You know you're going to struggle with it, but you don't want to be like making a mountain out of it, right? You don't want it to be some impossible task.
Yeah, and Ryan makes a good point. The way that we view situations can really change the way we perform. So in Ryan's example, if he's going up to at a powerlifting competition or in a training where he's doing a maximum effort day, and he immediately thinks a negative thing like, oh, this is going to be horrible, this is going to be hard, this is going to be too hard for me, that implies I can't do this. So you're basically reducing your own confidence in yourself versus, okay, this is heavy, but that's fine. This is what I'm here for. This is what I've trained for. So it's the difference between viewing something as a threat versus a challenge. And we always want to view things as a challenge versus a threat. And to be honest, there's some situations where people aren't very good with challenges either. And that's a whole nother situation that would involve, dealing with more than just negative self-talk. In this situation, we want to say, okay, we can rise to this challenge. That's fine. Versus this is a threat and I don't know how I'm going to be able to handle it.
Yep.
Yeah. So some of the ways that we can change this is by changing the way we view the situation. So in Ryan's scenario, I think that's pretty common in the strength sports. It's too hard. So Ryan then changed it to what?
That is just heavy.
That is just heavy. So in a competition, you could do something similar beforehand. I know Ryan has done this for me when I'm going for a PR. It's going to be heavy and that's okay, you've got this. And that always just gives me a little bit of a cue of, okay, I know it's going to be heavy, so I'm physically prepared for it. I'm mentally prepared for it to be heavy. I know we all should be like, duh, you're in a powerlifting meet, of course it's heavy. But until you're there and realizing the difference in the weight that you're pulling or pushing or putting on your back, sometimes you need that reminder, like, hey, by the way, this is going to feel really heavy on your shoulders, but that's fine, you've got it. In other sports, for instance, what would you say? Maybe like a pass in football?
The pass in football is going to be one of those kind of, it's either going to be there or not. If you've got a great quarterback, they may put the ball right there in your hands. You may have to work that little bit extra for it. You may have to lay your body out there on the line. But it's always going to be, for football, for me, it was always, if that ball comes up in the air and it touches my hands or it gets anywhere close to my hands, I'm going to pull it in.
Yeah.
The biggest thing for a sport like that would probably be not to expect perfect. And if you get a duck pass, which just makes it wobble, right? Just get your fingers on it. If you get your fingers on it, likely you're going to be able to pull it in, and just focus on that. Don't worry about how great your quarterback is or how much they suck, or if you've got a quarterback with an arm and they like to rifle the ball in there. Just know that you can catch it. You've caught many other passes before. And if you haven't caught many passes before, you should probably practice that too.
So basically, and I actually can see a perfect example in that, with if you go into a game and maybe the last game you weren't able to catch a bunch of the passes and it caused some issues with your confidence. In this situation, going into a game, you would use self-talk such as, the last game wasn't my best, but that's okay. I've been practicing since then. Or I just wasn't on my game the last game. That's kind of redundant. But I'm on my game today. I'm just going to focus on where that ball is and where my hands need to be, and that's that. So even in that situation where it feels like it's purely a physical and technical aspect, you can still change the way that you view the situation and your abilities to change the way you perform.
Yep.
So, do you have anything else on that?
It's going to sound a little bit too simplistic, but negative is bad, positive is good, right? Negative self-talk, you're probably going to shoot yourself in the foot. Positive self-talk is actually a really good, beneficial thing. It doesn't always have to be, oh, I'm the greatest, but it's the, I've got this. I can do this.
Yeah.
It may be hard, but it's not impossible.
And, as Ryan says that, it made me remember some people, and we brought this up a little bit in the last one, some people do use negative self-talk in a positive way. And I've always found this very interesting because it's never really worked for me. But I've actually seen quite a few powerlifters and strongmen do it where they kind of insult themselves. They're like, you're weak, you're horrible, you don't have this. And they really like motivate themselves doing that. And if it works for you, then great. And what you need to notice in that situation is, does telling myself these things amp me up more because I want to prove myself wrong because I have that drive to prove something wrong? Or does that actually hinder me? And so you're only going to be able to notice that by really taking a look at your performance afterwards and paying attention to the self-talk that you use. So I know a bunch of you are going to come back at me for that one because I know you were waiting for me to say it. And it's okay. Whatever you choose is fine. Just make sure it's helping your performance and not hindering it. So.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was actually realizing what I was saying at that point. I'm like, well, hopefully.
I thought that's where you were getting at. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, I've heard Ryan use that sometimes on himself. And I used to get really angry with him at first. And then I realized sometimes it helps him. So just do what works best for you. But notice it and pay attention to it.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, we'll see you back next week. Thanks again for coming and hanging out.
As always, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Bye, guys.
Bye.